Good evening, and apologies from Gabriela Ramos, who has been called back to Paris and asked me to make some closing remarks. I just want to start with, first of all, thanking all of you for what I think has been a very fruitful day. It was aimed at brainstorming. We have certainly done that. It's been fruitful across multiple dimensions. First, for the G20 and the task force that will meet tomorrow. I think this has been a very helpful irrigation of ideas, as well for the OECD work that will go in parallel and beyond the German presidency. So let me just, first of all, start by thanking our hosts, the German Ministry of Economy and Energy, for having us here in Berlin. I think this is a bit of an innovation itself for the G20 to have this open brainstorming at the beginning of a presidency to try to shape the agenda and where we will be taking it forward. I applaud this because this is an issue I feel passionately about, but it's an issue that is very pressing, and more so as time goes on. There are technologies that are quickly being deployed that are coming upon us rather quickly. Internet of Things being the most obvious, but with that, the data that then generates other technologies such as artificial intelligence that will be here. It's already here, but it's going to be very widespread very soon, and it's extraordinarily important that policy begin to come up to speed with these great opportunities, but significant challenges as well. And so it's with that I applaud the Germans with making this a very high theme within their presidency. I've been listening closely today. There's a few things that keep coming back at every session that I just want to quickly kind of check off, because I think this will help us as we go forward tomorrow and the day after. The first is you need to have access and the infrastructure. This is clear. It's not easy. And here, a lot of the low-hanging fruit has been picked already. And now it's getting to the tough spots of the world, some of whom even lack electricity, and tough spots of even some of the OECD member countries where geography is a gigantic challenge. But I want to say infrastructure is more than just cables and wires. It increasingly includes things like certainly spectrum, but also issues such as sufficient internet protocol addresses and data itself. We can use the data that's being collected either publicly or privately as an infrastructure that we use to achieve public policy goals. And so we need to begin to open up our thinking about this, and I would love to see the G20 set specific goals for achieving some of these objectives in the not-too-distant future, which of course will involve us rethinking how to finance some of this as well. Second, we've heard it a lot, and it worries me. I see the creative Schumpeterian destruction that people like me love at the OECD because it brings innovation and productivity slowing down in our economies. And I don't understand why. I think this is a research issue for us, but also means traditional tools may have to be revamped. These include things such as competition policy. It's been brought up several times today, but also understanding maybe new assets like data. And here, I think the G20 can help with our understanding about this and the importance of data in keeping it open and flowing across borders, because it's what irrigates and drives the global economy. And without it, you will not have the innovation we've seen over the last 15 years. And so we need to think of interoperable principles here that allow the trust in data to go forward, but keep the engine of growth that all of our economies need. And as Tim O'Reilly very passionately said this morning, it's more than just growth. It's about dealing with these huge global challenges that we face. And so there's other bottom lines, other objectives that data and its creative use can be brought to bear on. One other quick thing. As has been said many times today, it needs to be inclusive. That's a very broad term. That includes many different parts of the world. But one thing I've heard coming back and Dorothy's been good to remind me of it. The report doesn't do a sufficient job on SMEs. And here's a part of the economy I think we need to better understand. What are the limitations? It's finance, but it's not just finance. It's skills, I think. Geeks are expensive, and they're getting more and more expensive, and they get gobbled up. Carnegie Mellon's artificial intelligence professors, that whole department's been emptied out now because large tech firms have bought up most of these professors. Now, that's out of touch for a small SME to do. Let me quickly shift to the OECD. I want to thank my colleagues who put this together, and they did so before their tans could fade out of Cancun in Mexico, where we held a ministerial meeting last June. And that really launched us in some of our work in this horizontal project that I talked about briefly this morning. I just want to say this brainstorming has been very useful for us. We're in listening mode on this project, and I encourage all of you to contribute your ideas, your thoughts to us and other colleagues here on what that project should be focused on and how we best serve all of you in the audience. It will go on for 2 years. It will cover nearly every policy area with the exception of security and defense, which is done by a different international organization. But we need to move policymakers from being reactive, which is what I see too often, to being proactive, seizing this and making better use of the technology. And as has been said, we will certainly do that with a multi-stakeholder model. It's one that has served us very well at the OECD, but I think the G20 has elements of this too with the B20, T20, the W20, and so forth. So I'm hopeful that together, the OECD and the G20 and the presidency here today and the Argentinians moving forward, we can build a better common future, designing and delivering the digital economy all of us would like to see. Thank you very much.